This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Business or Pleasure with mentions of Teen Wolf, Supernatural, and The Vampire Diaries. For full list, please see show notes. Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Jessica Marie.
And I'm Laura Marie.
And today we are switching up the format and we are discussing Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Sullivan.
And Jess, why are we doing this? Why have we switched roles today?
So moving forward, we decided, what are we? We've been doing this since 2020 and this episode is in 2024. And we decided let's challenge ourselves a little bit. So there's usually stuff going on the weeks of our birthdays. We have our anniversary episode and I share, my birthday's that same week. So we decided moving forward on our half birthdays, we are going to challenge the other in the genres we both have read and do read outside of our typical fantasy genre that we cover on the podcast. So for, 6 months out from my birthday for this week, we're going to be covering romance, which I gave you a choice. I gave you a choice if you wanted a memoir or a romance. And then in September, the 6 months out from Laura's birthday, she's going to be challenging me with one of her preferred genres that we don't typically cover on the podcast. So that being said, welcome to Business or Pleasure, which we loosely discussed on our Thankful episode back in November. Well, I did. The book that I was thankful for last year in 2023 that we wouldn't normally cover on the podcast. But now I actually have somebody to talk about it with you. And this is a romance. There is spice. The spice is lovely and wonderful and fun. But we're not going to be really deep diving into the spice of it all. We're going to be... There's a lot of context going on between the con circuit, between the premise, between the plot, which I know fits the pattern, but not until chapter 5. Laura, how mad were you at that?
I was so annoyed.
I was like, at the end of chapter 4, I was like, ooh, is it 5 or 6? Does this fit the pattern?
It was really something. You could stretch it a little bit and say maybe a little bit earlier, but I
feel like it clicks together. You're like, if you didn't know where it was going, it's locked in chapter 5.
Oh, absolutely. But that being said, Jess, when you were describing this book to me, all of us really, for our previous episode, I don't think you adequately described how fucking cringy this first sex scene is. I know we're not talking about smut. This isn't that. This isn't smut. This is the most embarrassing, I
think that's the clarification, because it's not cringe like, what do you have me reading? It's, oh my God, you poor woman. You're going through this at 31 and you're just cringing for her. It's pretty rough.
It's really rough. That being said, I did this through audio. Lovely experience.
Lovely experience. Fun. You have to do it through the audio, I feel.
Yeah. The audio is just great. But you undersold. You undersold that. God damn. I was melting into a puddle of just mortification. And editor Sam was like, what is this? And I was like, it's the worst. This is the worst. Not the story, just this specific
the
scene.
moment for her. It's the worst for her, because even the character, Chandler, as our female main character, she was like, just put on my grave that I died here and I was miserable. This is, even, what was it? One of the points, and again, it's the audio experience where she says, "Oh my God, like, are you fucking kidding me?" But he misinterprets it as, "Oh my God." And she's like, "No, that's not what any of this is." And he's supposed to be a one-night stand. So she's just like, at this point, she's like, it's not even worth the effort in correcting him at all. This is going to be done in like 5 seconds, and then I'm out of here. Or so she thinks.
Or so she thinks. I think this might surprise people. Maybe. Are you surprised? I like this book. I like this book for the fun fluff of it. It is, Jess, you chose very wisely. Of course, I had, all faith in you.
I had all doubts. So thank you for that.
No. I trusted you completely. And you chose a book about a subject that you and I are both like incredibly knowledgeable about. So it was easy then to be like, no, that's not what would happen at that con. Absolutely not. Like, so, and you know how I'm just like, for logistics, I'm a little slut for the logistics. So like the logistics side of it was very fun. The travel side of it was fun. And also, and here's the part that may be like shocking. There is an underlying millennial cheese going on throughout this whole thing. Where it's like some of it is like just references. Some of it is more poignant about like older parents and like not really being able to feel secure because you're not with them and they are getting older and having to like have that conversation. That was like very poignant. And then there's other parts of it too, where you're just like, my friends are more successful, or my friends are like doing the thing that I thought I'd be doing and I'm doing something else. And the undercurrent too, from Chandler's point of view of like, what does success really feel like? And like, I have this dream, but is that sustainable? Like, is my dream like a sustainable thing that I can do? And then on the flip side of that, Finn, okay. Okay. I know it's the nocturnals. And I know it's werewolves. So it's like this teen wolf, but like magicians, because they're in college. Like, I get this. But the nocturnals is like, it's too close to the originals. It's like, oh my God. So like, I just kept thinking about like, well, which fucking member of the originals is this?
Right. Well, I mean, okay, here's the thing. So yes, Teen Wolf because werewolves, right? But when they have their panels, they talk about the con circuit, and we'll get into it in a second. But you have Finn is one of the main characters on the show with a cult following, and he has another character that he's like best bros with on the show, but that person knows how to pander to his audience and to the fandom so well, but behind the scenes is insufferable. And I don't know what fandom whoever is listening to, but I know you reading this, you knew exactly who to cast that person in your head of the most, great person with the fans, really has that charisma, the charm, has everybody eating num out of their hands in that fandom in the con circuit. But behind the scenes,
insufferable.
And it was so fun to know. And I mean, here's the thing. We spoke a little bit about it in our con episode. I think we had that summer 2021 of our personal convention and con circuit experiences, event experiences. But you and I can kind of also see this from 30,000 feet away, not just as fans, but as professionals, as people who are deeply embedded in all of this, from being paid in orchestrating events to volunteering to working with talent to seeing talent outside of that behind the scenes experience, doing the green room, seeing the press line. So I feel like we have a really true 360 approach when we get to talk about con circuits and even like the nitty gritty of this book. It also makes me wonder, I was like, where was the research? Because I have some questions, and I'm sure you did too.
Yeah, no, I've got an absolute fuck ton of questions. I'm also like weirdly disappointed that their time in Denver, he was just like sick the whole time and they just stayed in the hotel and watched reruns. I was like, God damn it. No, get out in the city. I want that.
You wanted the Denver exploration of it all, right?
Yeah. Cause like we have it in like other cities like Reno and everything, which is like fine, obviously. But like, come on.
Out of all the cities, you were like, really?
really? And then, of course, like the Phoenix one, just fun, silly.
Speaking of Phoenix, and I don't know if we'll go in chronological order. Maybe we'll jump around and we'll see where it goes. The part where the AC broke, I was doing the logistics. So we start wrapping in November because the reunion is in December and they did it for 2 months. So Phoenix was near the beginning. So that puts us at September in Phoenix. Still very hot. The AC broke at their Airbnb. This has happened to your mother in the middle of summer where it's unlivable, basically. So for them to still casually be chilling and then all of a sudden they do what they do and then they're like, oh, the AC kicked back on. Who came to the house to fix it? Because again, I know your mother had to I'm going to have to be in a hotel because I will actually die if I stay in this heat. So again, logistics. And I picked up on that my fourth read, because again, vibes. And I read it twice before for when we recorded last year for the Thankful episode, and then twice for this episode. So it was my fourth read that I picked up. I was like, wait, they didn't call anybody to get this fixed. How did the AC just get kicked on? I'm like, this isn't Florida Central Air.
They didn't call anybody. I'm sorry. If it's Phoenix, if I'm in Phoenix, the middle of the fucking desert, and the AC dies, I'm on the phone the second it starts making a funny noise. I'm like, ooh, what are we going to do about this?
I start feeling hot. I don't even know if it's broken yet. I'm like, did we forget to turn on the AC?
Yeah. What do we do about this? It's just like little, and obviously like it's a romance book, obviously, but like, come on. Stuff like that is so fun.
This is like Twilight when you were like, they couldn't get there because
they couldn't. I still think about it all the time. Like they couldn't get there.
You were even like Google Quest and like you were like, you did 2 different times. You did peak business, like, travel commuter hours and then dead of night. You're like, no, it's still not
it's not logistically possible. Here's another thing we're talking about Phoenix. Let me just get this off my chest. There is a line when they are in Phoenix being like, yeah, oh my God, like there's just like no Ubers in the suburbs.
I think there was 5.
We got turned down like 5 times. Nobody will come out to the suburbs and get us. I'm sorry. My mother lives in the suburbs of Phoenix and her drunk girlfriends got in one of those like Wavos, the driverless Ubers.
Oh my God.
And had a fucking night of it. Don't look me in the face and say they ain't coming out to the suburbs in Phoenix.
And wasn't that like one of the warnings when Taylor did Glendale's night 1 and 2? They were like, look, if you're planning on taking an Uber, there's not a vast amount of public transportation as there are in some major cities. So you need to plan more than 3 hours because they knew everybody was going to be doing Ubers. So it's that part of it. And it's not like a dated book. Like the book came out last year. So that was another, we were like,
And also too, you were downtown Phoenix is not close. Like the airport is far. Downtown Phoenix is like if you're in the suburbs, like you're commuting like a hot minute, which is wild to me. And again, not something that would be happening logistically. I know it's like, oh, wait, no, those celebs stay near the convention center, at the convention center. Like there's a business there and that's part, like, this thing wouldn't be happening. But we know that from it just, just
from like our personal experience, even if they're saying like, look, And what was it in the book that they did? Look, it was cheaper to stay in an Airbnb for a couple days than to fly back and forth, which that part absolutely makes sense. Sometimes that makes sense. You're like, you know what? We get this extra time. And this is like, sure, go for it. They have, I mean, I've stayed in Atlanta. They have Airbnb hotels. Like I know Phoenix has also built up their business district. So, you know, like that is what happens. I mean, even when your mom lived closer to North Mountain, that's still really close. And there's all sorts of Airbnbs in that direction. So and even when they do the Super Bowl, like the amenities are there. And I can't imagine Con Weekend sold everything out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, that's the other part of it too, which is just logistics. You know, I just love the logistics. And here's the other part, talking about logistics, that I thought was very fun was, here's my confession. I have not been west of Colorado. So all of the like Washington stuff, all of the California stuff, like I love that stuff. Like give that to me. I like hearing about that stuff. Give me the environment. Give me that con experience. Like I love reading about that because I have no experience there. But you know, our main character talked about like her pet project novel, how she had originally set it in Florida. And when she's revising it, she's like, well, I've never like been there. Why did I do that? Like I should write what I know. It's going to be set in like Washington. I was like, yeah, girl, go off. Like,
well, and speaking of the main character, I feel like we haven't even introduced our characters or the mains really. And our plot, because our main character is Chandler. She's our female main character. We have Drew, which was Drew/Finn. Drew was his alias that he was using on a night out, as talent does. And you have, I'll say like the third really key person is Noemi, because that is Chandler's cousin. They've grown up together. They're pretty much like sisters. And Chandler has a very codependent relationship with everybody in her family. And like, good for Chandler for having healthy relationships and like family that she loves. Like good for her, to the point where it's very codependent. And even her family has to be like, you need to you have to go live your life. And it's a comfort zone. And that's something that Chandler does acknowledge through her journey of this book is, this is comfort. This is familiar. This is stable. There is routine. And she doesn't know if she wants to venture and have growth. But like you were saying, Laura, in these like, these times where what does success look like for you? What are you're so used to comparing yourself to your peers and your friends. And, you know, it's deeper than you think when you break it down of like all the little things we go through, at different points in our life.
Well, and you bring up a fantastic point that I want to touch on is I want to touch on Wyatt.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because I think when I brought up earlier this like millennial cheese that we've got going on, this like undercurrent of millennial problems, because that's what it is. I think a lot of people can relate to having a crush on a guy for a really long time, being friends, having that night, and then having the guy being like, that was great, but like, no, though.
Yes.
No.
I don't see us more than that. Oh, he was so... And then when he came up to be like, you're not mad at me, are you? Fuck. Oh, did you just want to be like, fuck off?
Well, okay. What I needed at that moment was to have like a picture of this guy, be like, how hot are you that you think... You know, it's like your dick is too small to raise your voice to me. Like, how hot are you that this is like
pining,
something...
like since she was a teenager, since they were her freshman year of college or something.
Yeah. So like, how hot are you that this does not faze you? Do you know what I mean? Like that you can just do this.
And how dumb are you that you've known her since she's a freshman? You've been best friends forever. You've been coming to family holidays for years. And you never once thought that any of this could be misleading.
Yeah. This Wyatt. But I like though that she Like that hurts her. Like that confidence, like shake, that's really real. And to have the rebound, like Drew is like kind of like a rebound, being like, you know what, like why not? Why not just have one night of fun when our main character is feeling shitty, right?
She kind of wanted to reclaim her sexuality in that moment, to be like, you know what? I don't need to determine my worth by some guy that I've been crushing over for over 10 years. I'm going to reclaim my sexuality. I'm going to reclaim my confidence. It's not terrible to want to look cute and kind of like, and that's not exactly where her intention set off. She was just like, hey, cuz I still need to take another drink. You go home. I know you're exhausted and I'm just going to grab a drink and I'll meet you at home. That was her intention until Drew is also at the bar wanting to fly solo. And, they hit it off immediately, and it just comes because they are loving the drama that's happening behind the bar because they pick up that the bartenders are bickering with each other.
Which is like so fun.
Which is so fun because usually it's the other way around. It's usually the bartenders that are hearing all the drama and they want to know it. They want to know it.
Exactly. And also too, again with my undercurrents here, Chandler has just had a career disappointment, but like a career success tinged with disappointment. Like she's a ghostwriter. We've said that. She's a ghostwriter. She's a ghostwriter, and she has ghostwritten this book with this woman about like water. It's like she jokes, he calls it like a hydration call.
Yeah, self-help influence, like an influencer who's writing like a self-help toxic positivity tell-all.
Yeah, and Chandler is in the signing line, goes up to the influencer, and the influencer has like no idea who she is. And then Chandler reads the dedication page and it's dedicated to her, but her name is spelled wrong and it's Cohn and not Cohen. And that sucks. So again, a very high and a very like low together brings us to the worst one night stand. I can't like, ugh.
Which I don't want to say is cute. Their banter is cute leading up to it. They're like, she wouldn't have gone home with them. They're like, this is so cute. He's like this cute little like dorky nerd. She's charmed, but I don't want to say charmed because I feel like whenever somebody says you're charming, I'm like, red flag. Mm-hmm. But she's taken with him. I guess that's the right thing to say. And they finally go like back to his place. Oh, and they're hitting. She's like, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm in town for work. She's like, what do you do? And he goes, oh, I'm in tech sales. And she's like, cool. And she's like, this is going to be so empowering for me. He's cute. I like him. He likes me. He's saying sweet nothings. He's hot. I don't even know his last name. Who am I? But like, I need to get out of my head. And they go back to his hotel room and she has what she calls the worst sex of her life, goes to her cousin when she comes home the next day. She's like, no, you don't understand. It was awful. It was miserable, but thank God it's over. Like, sure, I'll take some responsibility. I could have been more vocal. I could not have faked it, but here we are. And then her cousin's like, well, let's go to a workout class. It's a Saturday. Get your mind out of it. Just, and she already knows all of this stuff that's happened with Wyatt. And her cousin Noemi says, let's go to this workout class. They go to the workout class and ghostwriter Chandler, when she's getting out of the class, gets a bunch of calls from her agent saying, we need you to meet this person. They're in town. They want you to ghostwrite this next celebrity memoir, this, that, the other thing. So what happens?
She doesn't shower.
She doesn't even shower at the gym.
Full stop.
Oh, because she has 15 minutes to get to where she needs to go.
Full stop. She doesn't shower. I'd be late.
Especially, I guess that's a good point. Like, you're asking me to meet you in 30 minutes. Like, you can wait.
Yeah,
that's fucked. A good point. Yeah.
Call him back. Tell him I'll
Why
be 10
do I
minutes
need to
late.
rush your? What's that expression? Your poor planning doesn't mean an emergency.
It's not my emergency. Yeah. Like, get fucked. I'm gonna shower. Like, gross. That's all I could think about was, ew. Because, like, you can tell, like, you came from a workout class. Like, it doesn't matter. You can tell that you are not fresh.
No slicked back bun is going to make it look like I did that intentionally after a workout class. No.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're still like, realistically, she had that little amount of time. You're probably still sweating in the car and flushed. Like, so she didn't shower. And that's all I could fucking think about the whole time was, ew, you're sticky.
She probably had less time because she tells her cousin, "Can you drive me here and be here in 15 minutes?" And she still had to change.
Yeah.
She still didn't have, so like she was already essentially running late.
Yeah. So why not make it later? That's all I could think about was ew. Oh my God. But that, which is funny because Finn has OCD. And is like germs is something that he is concerned about. And like, she's just like this dirty, sweaty, like, hello, here I am. Like, it was like a juxtaposition. It was funny, to me, but I was also just like, but I want to point out the personality traits of Finn are really lovely.
But we don't know who Finn is. Who's Finn, Laura?
Well, okay. Finn is Drew, from the Nocturnals. But I just want to point out that like Finn's OCD is not like a quirk or like a funny haha like thing. This is like legit representation here. And of course I can't speak on how accurate it is or like anything, but this is the first time that I have read something that takes OCD seriously and that doesn't try to make any sort of joke about it. And I thought that was very nice and very serious.
And also like the importance of mental, like, you know, they talk about mental health, the importance of mental health. Mm-hmm. And I think we as, we're so used to discussing mental health openly, and it's not necessarily the same for men. And seeing that depicted in here was also like really refreshing as well.
Yeah, it really was. So, Finn's like personality quirks of like, I really like Lord of the Rings and like I have a sword in my house, things like that are different from these like very serious things. However, his inability to please a woman in bed is amusing. It's an amusing thing. And I'm just going to couple that with, before we talk about this meeting a little bit later when Chandler is like, yeah, like I minored in human sexuality. Like I can give you sex tips. That's the part where I was like, okay, all right, this is a story.
Meanwhile, minoring in gender and sexuality studies has nothing to do with here's the technicality of sex. It's usually like coming, and she says like, I wanted to understand like more of like the research and the political understanding, not like
the anatomy, which is funny, which is, again, it's just like a little, I mean, use your degree, girl, good on you. But like, I was amused by that. I was just like, okay. This is where it's a haha story because like
it's rom-com, not romance.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, okay. But here's the point that I'm making here. I'm reading this as an adult, being like, ha. If I like, obviously, I read things that I shouldn't have read when I was a child. So, if I was younger, like 6th grade, picking this up. This would be my fucking dream.
Well, I mean, right? Because it's I met a celebrity and I had no idea that he was a celebrity. Like fanfic that we all and like maladaptive daydream about, right?
Yes.
Acting like you don't know who those people, like you don't know who somebody is, and you just strike up a casual conversation.
Yeah, like this would have been my fucking dream. And it just like all of it too, all of it being like, cause I know myself. And like when I was younger, I'd be like, ooh, human sexuality. That's so like,
well, and then like, let me, cool. And you can be cool and go to cons and talk about Doctor Who and talk about Lord of the Rings. Like it was all like Marvel and Harley Quinn. It was like, it was checking the boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was like, so, like all things are formulaic, but like it was hitting like broad swings. I really enjoyed that. This aspect of like really folding in all these things that we really like. And of course, like, but also very specifically, and just, this is where I think like you chose just like the perfect book. Like this guy, Finn, who is commissioning Chandler to ghostwrite his memoir, which is what this meeting is about. And it's very awkward and they recognize each other, but they don't like say anything. And it's like, haha, weird. But he is not, he's like C-list, maybe even less.
It's like one of those A-list in your heart because that series means so much to you, but on like a grander scheme of things, he makes his predominant paycheck through the con circuit, which both of our familiarity, typically with like, especially the bigger cons, and they mention the bigger cons. They mention Emerald City. They mention, Big Apple. They mention Rose City. There is a guarantee for a lot of talent to sign on, which means no matter what, they are guaranteed to walk away with a minimum. And then anything over that, is like extra perks. It's usually cash. I don't know how the tax part of that works. I'm not even going to speculate, but there is a guarantee involved with a lot of contracts, especially with the more familiar names. And he was not cheap. His photo ops were going for $125 and his autograph was going for $75. And that's just like, the online pre-order. If you're familiar with the cons, there's also a different rate if you go if you go in person and you pay cash. That's also a different, and again, it's cash money. So I'm sure taxes work different there. And that's with somebody coming from who used to work in the service industry. So there's a lot. That's his predominant source of income. And he says, can't quit the con circuit. Love it so much. And how can you not? Because they say like how fandom is cherished. Like this, it's immortalized and you see it now.
And he doesn't just do the big cons. He does the small niche cons. So we're saying he is like a C-D list actor, but in the con space and in the very specific, like, they go to one that's like supernatural specific.
Yeah,
like
the paranormal one.
Yeah, the paranormal one that's like very specific. Like that one, Chandler says like he's like a god.
Yeah.
Like he's like mobbed. He can't do anything. So like in the environment, he is incredibly famous. And that is something that when you go to con,
it's so niche.
It's so apparent too when you go to con, because there are some actors that don't leave the circuit. And there is a circuit. There's like the big circuit, and then there's like rings of like smaller, and so you can get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But some actors just don't leave the circuit, and that's, I would imagine, a weird state, like place to be, like for a while,
Well, and I also think and I know we talked about this briefly in our con episode, where there have been talent who said, I make more on a weekend than if I kept doing like guest episodic appearances for a day. So why wouldn't I go to this place with a minimum guarantee where I'm going to be, your ego can take a hit. I mean, and that's not just in this field. It's in any field when you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Maybe I'm not getting this role. Maybe I'm not getting this position. But where they'll always be appreciated is by the fans at these conventions. And especially with what they can pull, they're like, I can do 2 days worth of work for a week's paycheck. I mean, the math is mathing. And when she was saying that, like, I immediately thought of like, rest in peace, Jason David Frank. Like, his life after Power Rangers was the con circuit, and he was loved and adored and appreciated. And I mean, it hit the con circuit and the people who go regularly very, very hard.
That was a really hard loss. Yeah. In the con community, that pillar of like, yeah, he'll be there. Like, yeah, he'll be there. He will remember you, and he will say something to you. He'll shake your hand, and
it's good to see you again. Like,
he will take the picture. He'll stay late. He'll do all these things. And for him to only be famous in certain, I mean, we're talking about JDF, but like for him to only be famous for like the Power Rangers, which is like something that came out so long ago, for some people, but then on, you know, the other side, he like created his own martial arts. So you have like these two, and that's the other thing about Con is you have these two very different, communities coming together to celebrate this one person, which, happens a lot and is fun. And so the tour that Chandler and Finn go on, after they, cement the contract for this book and stuff, is a tour of sexuality, a tour of personal growth, personal acceptance, and also just a tour of con life.
Which, again, is fun because they're meeting up with former co-stars. They're doing panels together. Where are you off to next? Am I going to see you next weekend at Pittsburgh? Oh no, I'm going over here to Columbus. Oh, you never quit the con circuit. And he even says to Chandler at one point, because, you know, they're discussing their memoir. He's like, when I'm on the con circuit, he's like, I want nothing more to be home. But then when I'm home, I'm like, I miss traveling. I miss being on the road. You know, there is a familiar, and it's not just because of like the fans, which he adores and he appreciates and is very grateful for that they're the ones who are continuing to sustain his lifestyle. But he's also like, I get to see my friends again, and there's no other people who know what I'm going through than the people who are also going through it.
And there's also like cast drama too, which is just like so fun.
Oh, that's the best part. It's not the best part, but it's that the behind the scenes that you get super like, you know, what's the drama? Are you going to find out what the drama is? You don't find out, you know, this show has been off the air for 10 years at this point, which means the show started before that. So you get that timeline. He even says, he's like, you know, I got my first big paycheck in my 20s. Like, of course I spent it on the actual sword from Lord of the Rings. I wasn't getting a replica. I didn't know the point of money. I have adult money now, and I'm a nerd. And that's like the best part when we have adult money and you're like, ooh, fandom.
Jess, I have a question for you. While they are on tour, the topic of Finn being a bad lay is broached. And she tells him, would you say anything? Okay. First of all, would you have that conversation professionally as client? Would you even touch that conversation? Then would you agree to like essentially fuck him for the rest of the time?
When it comes to work, I am so separation of church and state.
I know.
And so it's like, I don't even talk about the podcast with my coworkers. So I just don't, I wouldn't broach it. Even if it's like, oh, well, you slept together before you started working together. Like that should be the loophole. I'm not saying it's not a loophole, but I'm pretending it's not happening. I'm not saying that when he said the comment, you know, and this, you know, he says the comment, he's like, even though we had like the best sex of our lives that one night, we could be professional. And Chandler goes and says, that was the best sex of your life? Okay. Even if I didn't say that, my face would. So I don't know if I could keep a poker face and be like, okay. I would just like be looking around. But typically the people I've been on dates with are dumb enough that they wouldn't pick up on that anyway. So...
Yeah, that was just this other like part of it that I struggled with.
Especially when you said you weren't going to bring it up. You're like, let's not bring it up. Then why are we bringing it up?
Why are we bringing it up? And then also too, like say you break up and it gets out and you're the girl that sleeps with her clients while she writes the books. Like,
yes, again, bigger picture because
not
I feel like it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
No, date him, like build it up for 2 months and then date him after the book is out or something.
Or I would even disclose, because especially when you're thinking of like legal stuff, in this context, like I know she's signing an NDA, I know he's a celebrity or whatever, but I would be concerned if I, like, again, my job, do you bring up to your agent, look, I'm happy to do it, but I want to disclose this. We've slept together before, didn't know it was him, I'll be honest, didn't know, but like, is this going to be a conflict of interest? And then you have somebody else who can handle HR, because then you can never, your your professional
You're covered.
reputation.
You're covered.
Yes,
Yeah.
could never be questioned into like the context of this all. Because they even say, like, even in the epilogue, I'm like, that's getting out. At some point, this is getting out. Especially because Wyatt over here knows you're about to work with him. Like, there's too many people who know that she's a ghostwriter. I was like,
yeah,
I don't trust as many people in my life.
Yeah, it was just like not safe. I was like, this is not worth it. Like, and then like later in one of the stops when they go to the sex shop, I think in Memphis,
Yes!
and they're recognized, and he's like taking pictures. I was just like,
What are you doing?
what? Stop! Like, stop!
In the sex
She's like,
toy
I'm gonna
worker.
post it and put it on the wall.
I want
Like,
a celebrity wall of everybody coming here. What? I mean, here's the thing. I feel like I understand where she's coming from a business perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I could think like bigger picture. Now this becomes the celebrity place, even if it's not for like serious, like just for like their shtick. Like, oh, look where I ended up. Like you have like certain restaurants where everybody wants to show up. I feel like that's what this sex shop could have, like that was her goal. But don't take a picture and also confident. Like, aren't we supposed to be respectful?
yeah,
At a sex shop.
yeah. I was just like, whoa, like all of that. There are some things where I was just like, are we really okay? I guess we are. So. I mean, we are like loosely touching on all these tour stops. I mean, we don't have to do all of them. Jess, do you have a favorite like tour stop? A favorite lesson?
I don't know if I don't know if I have a favorite lesson. I'm mixed with New York.
Wait, are you mixed about him putting the vibrator on her mouth? Because I am, just a little bit.
I don't know. I feel like we've read enough Katie Robert where that's like he's using her as the lube instead of the globs of lube that he used and doused the bed with the
I was
first
just thinking,
time.
like, he's like, because the way it's described, he was just like,
Oh, I just imagined it like a
like a soft, like, rubbing.
Like I was imagining like I can't believe I'm doing this on camera. Like a rotating part in her mouth.
Oh,
I don't know. I was like, you're imagining it like here comes the airplane.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? Why is this sexy? And it's like vibrating. So, she's like, I was like, why is this sexy? But then maybe I was just like, maybe I'm just not.
There's like, it's like, there was a problematic comedian. I'm not going to say who this comedian is, but he had a skit where like one of his like things that he says, he's like, in sex where you just start saying random shit and none of it makes sense. And it was like one of the lines, he was like, oh yeah, my dick feels like corn. Like that was his. It's so hard. And this comedian said that. And I think about this because it was very, very long time ago. And I was like, this has to be that moment where you're just like dickmatized or something. Where you're just like, saying anything at this point because she's already down bad. They've both admitted to themselves internally, oh shit, these are feelings. This wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah. And so you were talking about New York and you said New York is a mixed bag. Is that because Big Apple doesn't happen?
Yes. At Javits? Yes. That was a very big issue I had. I was like, I've known Big Apple, and sometimes they call it, it's not Big Apple Circus, but they'll say like Big Apple Comic-Con. Big Apple Con. It's happened at Madison Square Garden. It's happened in the theater there. It's happened at hotel ballrooms. Never in my knowledge has it ever happened at Javits. New York Comic Con happens at Javits, and I could say this even logistically. Big Apple Comic Con usually happens around like November, December, January. Again, like a lot of things have shifted in a post-COVID world, I'll say. But this is so like Big Apple Comic Con in the book happens in November. New York Comic Con happens in October. So I was already like logistically, I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. This is like, and it's a con. It's definitely a con. It's fun. New York used to have a Wizard World in New York in Alphabet City. So it's like known. So like the logistics of it. But I also liked that this was like their final night. They're like basically admitting that whatever they've been doing, they're not just friends. They're not just coworkers. They're really falling for each other. Because this also leads into like the third act of the book, I guess you could say, is there's no miscommunication trope. There is a problem they want to address the problem, but but Chandler is like, I need to figure this out by myself. I know we can do it together, but this is like something that I need to address. And which is really, I think it shows her strength as a person too, because she's been codependent on so many people her whole life. And I like that it was never a third act breakup. I think it was just like, I have to do this and we'll be stronger for it.
Yeah. And, she leaves, but it's not, you're right. It's not a breakup. And she comes back and he's like, oh my God, all the makeup in the world. I can't hide my dark circles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm wrecked. I'm ruined by you. All the things we like. Yes, we love a pathetic man loving us.
Yes. Like, please. So what are you conflicted about there then?
I actually don't know. I think it was the logistics.
Just the logistics. That's totally fair.
Wait, what was yours? Wait, what was your, do you have a favorite lesson and do you have a favorite town?
Okay, great question. Okay, my favorite tour stop is Reno. I really liked Reno.
It was fun.
I liked the family. I liked the dogs. I liked the exploration of the Judaism and the inclusion of the details of the Judaism. I thought it was really like a nice touch. Of course, Chandler and Finn are both Jewish, and Finn's mom is a rabbi. Like it's great.
Yeah.
Like it's great. And I also liked that, they did bad karaoke. They met the childhood friends. They had like a passionate makeout behind the bar. It felt to me like that was the first time that Finn was like really comfortable and able to kind of like relax and really kind of sink into his feelings for Chandler. And I liked that. There was, and his friend was there, and like his friends weren't assholes. So it was another like, okay, he's like a good guy, and like his mom wasn't like a bad person, and like there's dogs, and the dogs are good, So I really liked that.
And that was like where I feel like you really see like everybody sees it except the two that are admitting to each other, and everyone's like, how are you not like, and that was the thing, like they knew that they were into each other, but they still had to keep up this pretense that it's strictly professional.
The second part of your question, no, I don't have a favorite lesson. I have a least favorite lesson.
Let's hear the least favorite lesson.
It's the dirty talk. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it with a straight fucking face. I can't do it in real life with a straight fucking face. I can't do it in books with a straight fucking face.
I was going to say, can you read it with a straight face?
No, well, okay. Yes, I can read it and like outwardly.
Okay.
Like I'm Stonewall. Inwardly, I'm dying. I'm probably sweating. Like I'm probably like no expression on my face, but I'm probably sweating because like I hate it. It is so cringe to me, and it's never sexy. It has never been sexy. It has always been funny. And
to
that's
you. Let's clarify.
To me.
I was like, we are not yucking anybody's yum here if you're listening.
So to have then really bad dirty talk, like objectively terrible dirty talk, and then to have him slowly get better, but to be getting better to specifically like please one person is the other thing. So like he's like learning how to please Chandler, which is like very nice, of course.
And she says, like, in the beginning of all of these lessons, she's like, look, I can teach you what I like, but everybody's going to be different. But the key component to all of this is that you need to listen and you need to communicate.
Yeah. And they do. And he does. And he speaks. And it's unbearable for me. So that was my least favorite lesson. I don't really have a favorite lesson. I thought they were all, besides the dirty talk, I thought they were all like the same level of like cute and awkward, but also like a little bit raunchier than I expected.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, it's one of the cartoon cover gotchas.
Yeah. And so like that was surprising each time too. I was just like, oh, oh, well, okay. And then he utters the great, I want to come on your tits. Like, okay, you're a dude. That's fun. So those are my favorites. Like that's kind of what's going on. Again, like the whole undercurrent of like the sexy lessons is just like not like, that's where I am like, oh, this is a fantasy. Jess, you gave me a fantasy book.
It actually does align with the podcast.
Like,
well, and he asks her when she
do you
she was
exactly.
yeah, which is also like I like because part of their conversations were but like if we don't want to, for whatever reason, if somebody doesn't want to do this agreement anymore, this arrangement, like immediate stop, no questions asked. And she eventually like has to come to terms that she's like, shit, I have feelings for you. And she tells him, she's like, she doesn't know. She's getting overwhelmed. We already know that they approach her anxiety. She says, like, I have a generalized anxiety disorder. She has an anxiety attack. Like, so we know that conversation has happened there. And so her mind is going a mile a minute. And she eventually just comes out to tell him, we can't do this anymore. And he's like, oh, that's right. I can't question it. But like, is it a me thing? Am I not respecting you? Like, he's just like, I'm good. I just can't, like, what? I'm sorry, basically. And she tells him, she's like, look, I have feelings for you, and that's why we can't keep going anymore, because this is like not a you thing. This is a me thing. And he's like, hey, babe, I have feelings for you too. And again, we have the communication here. And I know we both get frustrated with a miscommunication trope, and that doesn't happen in this, which I feel, I don't know, maybe it's some of the romances I've read. I feel like more often than not, the miscommunication trope is there as opposed to it not being there. So again, this is refreshing. We're talking about our feelings. We're admitting things. We're not trying to circumvent and like do everything but that. She just comes to terms with it. And they both see how they can work this out together and alone, but come back and never break up through the process.
Yeah. And also they confess that like, well, I had feelings for you here and I had feelings for you here. And we could have been doing this the whole time. And I would have, and this and this and this. And that I don't know if that is like an established like trope that people talk about, is like when the love interest like confess they've had feelings for a really long time and go back through and like tell why. But I love that shit.
I've never seen, I feel like you hear she fell first, but he fell harder. That part, and I feel like maybe that's a combination of this, but they both are just as down bad for each other.
Yeah, they are. So again, though, a little raunchier than I expected when he was like, okay, kind of out of the blue, a little bit, when he's like, do you have any like fantasies?
Oh, that's where I was going with this conversation, because we were talking about fantasy. Yes. And he was like, hey, since we're official, let me fulfill your fantasy. And she's like, spank me. And I was like, oh, that's not as big of a fantasy as I thought.
I said, aren't you outside?
And they were. And she has dialogue. And she's like, nobody can see us, but people can hear us.
I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. We just like, whoa, whap. Whoa, whap. You're just in the fucking garden.
Your neighbors.
Your neighbors. They know who you are.
Yeah,
bro.
It's not like he's, because I'm telling
you,
you don't think your neighbors are going to be calling up TMZ to be like, so my neighbor is Flanagan or whatever his Walsh. Finnegan Walsh. And he
in the garden.
Again, to each their own, but like at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. If all eyes are on me, I would be
inside with the blackout curtains drawn. Like,
I mean, Christian Grey had a red room. It was silent. It was like soundproof.
Yeah. It was just, again, a little bit more raunchy than I expected. And for being a celebrity and having been a celebrity for a long time, very cavalier with his like image, I guess, maybe.
He doesn't take it seriously though, too. Like that's his thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I guess you could also be like, no, I don't know. I do like though that they have the conversation of like, well, I don't want to move here and I don't want to move there. and we need to like commute, and like, what can we do? And like, it's not an immediate of like perfect meshing of their lives.
Yeah. And it's still something that they work out. And even in the epilogue, it's still like, we both have our own respective lives that we have to continue to like sustain ourselves for the lives that we want to create together. And I think that's also really refreshing. Like you said, it's not like, you know, everything's fixed. And, you know, this is exactly what because there's actual compromise that goes into the discussions that they're having.
Yeah. And Chandler, I mean, here I am undercurrenting again. Chandler has been working on her like novel this whole time. And it's been her journey of like self-discovery, self-growth, self-acceptance. And Finn has helped with that in lots of different ways to get her back on track to really standing up for herself and determining what she wants out of herself, out of her life, out of her career, out of her relationships. And at the end of the book, she has written her cozy
thriller.
What is it? Thriller. I guess
cozy
it's
thriller crime.
Yeah. Cozy little thriller, a little murder mystery. And she's very proud of it, as she should be. And she has fulfilled her dream, and she's contracted for a second book. And that is like where she wants to be. And Finn is working on his nonprofit that was like the really like key part of his memoir, and has rebranded himself.
He's more than just like a fandom con circuit celebrity.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I want to rebrand himself. And that was one of the things like his agent and his publicist were pitching to Chandler in the beginning. Like, we want to refocus the image, but while capitalizing on the fandom and the people who love, which I feel like a lot of celebrities do. You see it in the memoirs that they release. You see the timing in which they release them and how they, and just those tie-ins to their celebrity fame, because fans are still going to want to know and hear and listen and read, especially when you've been in it for a long time. And this was a part that I had like a 2-part question for you. So at this time that Chandler is working on her novel, she is also given this opportunity to say, there is another celebrity. You do not have to trial. They did not even need to see any of your sample work. They want you to ghostwrite for them. It's more money that you would ever dream as a ghostwriter. You don't have to interview. They want you right away. She has, she comes to this crossroads of sort. Does she take this and continue to put her novel on the back burner, or does she go ahead and focus on the back burner and turn this opportunity down that she's never had before? She's had all this money, and she asks multiple people. She talks to Finn, she talks to her cousin, she also had an argument with Finn and him saying like she shouldn't take this opportunity. And my question to you would be, for you personally, would you have tried to juggle both? Would you have tried to prioritize one or the other? And if that's the case, which one would it be? And then my second part to that is, one is the decision you would make for yourself. And then what if someone came to you for this advice? What advice would you give them? Because I feel like that's a 2-part, because I feel like so often in life, we're so quick to give other people advice, but not necessarily take our own. So I wanted to understand your perspective on this.
Sure. It's 3 words. Take the money.
I figured that was going to be the case. I feel like you can you haven't been working on your novel for 3 years. What's another year?
Yeah, like, what is the fucking urgency?
I thought so. I was like, I know exactly. Or she would be like, I know if you told me, you'd be like, you would do both if you really wanted to focus on the second one.
If you cared that much, you would do both. Doing if you really, really wanted to, you would have been working on it this whole time.
Yes. I knew that was going to be, but I wanted anybody who's listening to hear your decision.
It was like, yeah, like, come on, take the money. You know what's really nice? Having the time to write, because you don't have to work, because you took the money.
What does Penelope Featherington's mom say in season 3 and part 1? She's like, you know what's nice? Security. That's fucking nice.
Or there's an old quote, Ben Affleck, I think from Boiler Room. They say money doesn't buy happiness. Look at the smile on my face.
I love that.
I mean, come on. Time is money. Let my money buy me time to write the great American novel. Like, you know, you want to talk about practicality. Like, come on. That was another part where I was like, this is fantasy. I'm just, you know, my disbelief has been suspended. Like the love over money. Like,
I believe, but like, that's the thing. She didn't have to choose love or money. She had both. It was never a matter of, if you take this job, you're not going to be with him. He never gave her an ultimatum. She asked a question and she didn't like the answer that she was given by two different people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, take the money. What about you?
I would have taken the money. I would have
like, come on.
I would have taken the money. It would have been, if it was really, really important to me, I would have been working on it this whole time. Just kind of like we have our, you know, our professional jobs and we still do our podcast. I would have either focused on the money first and then focused on like the side project because it hasn't been important this whole time. Or if it was still important to me, I would have. I mean, but that's, you've known me for 20 years. I've always had my hands full with having two things at once all the time. So that wouldn't have been a question.
Yeah, it's just those is very silly. It's like conflict. Okay.
Like, is it really a conflict? You know,
really a conflict?
Not for us, apparently.
Apparently not. Apparently, it's not a conflict. Yeah, you know, take the money. Where do I sign?
Right. I just, yeah, especially with the way the amount that they were saying her, like,
yeah.
And if it was really like, take the money, work on your project either in conjunction or after, and take that break, and then you could still build on it because you just like quadruple down with your resume with who you've been ghostwriting for.
And she said that the publishing process was easy for her because she had so many contacts built up because of her ghostwriting days.
Which also made me wonder, does she only have all of these press here because of her PR relationships? And is the content really good? That was my first question. Like, from my publicist brain, I was like, so is she just here because she had those connections? That doesn't mean she's good. That means she's going to get like the press support and everything and get everything out there. And she's like, and it's already been confirmed. Like, it was a confirmed duology, or her second book was already confirmed with it. And I'm like, cool, but
is it good?
Like, I just, most people, I did not do my research, don't sustain a life with one book.
Yeah. So, you know, it's fantasy. It's secretly a fantasy. I mean... rom-com fantasy
and literature that
you love, and so much fandom, just the best part of fandom. And you know what, I'm thinking about it right now because I have gone to, depending on when this airs, the Denver Fan Expo, and Susan Sarandon is going to be there, and her photos are $125.
That's it. Which, I mean, like, is, I know this is just,
I know,
we recognize our privilege that we
understand.
But like, for somebody, here's the thing. Again, if you put it in context, we have also both gone to Supernatural Con. I don't know if we've mentioned it in episodes or not before. And photo ops with Jensen and Jared were to something at one point. At the peak, I think it was like between $275 and $375 because I just remember every year they kept going up and we were like, oh my God, thank God we got the duo when we did. Or even with the Vampire Diaries Creation Entertainment Cons, the duos with Ian and Paul were like up there. They're up there. So when I think of CW actors who I love, I'm not saying I don't love them. And then you have someone like Susan Sarandon, I'd be like, only $125? That seems like you are the Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, it is shocking. And also her premium autographs and her photo ops are the same price.
What makes them premium?
Yeah, personalized.
Oh, okay. Oh, they charge extra for personalization?
$20 more for personalization.
Holy shit. That is a new thing in the con circuit, I feel. That's changed. Well, even videos, because there's a moment in this book where he's like doing cameos. And again, I've been fortunate enough, I'm in New York. I have like a lot of exposure. And for one of your birthdays, we did a compilation of like videos of people like I ran into on the street, or they had like appearances and they were just like doing birthday shout outs. And now they charge for those. So.
Yeah. The cameo for Editor Sam's birthday last year, I got him a cameo from Scott Hansen because we are NFL Red Zone whores.
That's your favorite. I feel like we're gonna have to change our recording schedule so you could maximize that.
God, I love NFL Red Zone. But I got him that cameo, and that was not cheap. However, just like Finn, when he is in the hotel room recording this, and he's saying like very personalized things to this person, our cameo, I say our, I wrote, I told him what to say. He said it. He said all of it. Everything that I said is like all the little details, all the little things that was like, make this personal for you. He really went above and beyond. So I like that cameo is a thing, and I like that they included it here. I am interested, Jess. My question to you, because I know we'll be wrapping soon. My question to you is, this book came out recently. Yeah. And it does contain some things that are, kind of stuck in this time period. How do you think a book like this will age?
You have a very more intellectual question than I was going to ask. I feel like we've had this conversation before about when they're so time stamped in certain pop culture references, even though they don't say like which social media, but I feel like I don't think it's going to age well necessarily unless there becomes this like another way, just like every generation does. You have, you revisit different eras, different generations, just like with now, you still have a lot of the 90s and early aughts styles that are very prevalent, and you love seeing it, and it's so fun. I feel like that's when it would, I don't want to say age well, but it's kind of like when we read the Daughters of the Goddesses of the Moon, like that takes place in the 90s. But we're reading it now, understanding there's this resurgence of 90s early aughts culture. So it's really fun. I feel like this book might age well in that regard. But, she even says like when she graduated in the 2010s and her first journalism job was, digital media, and it was focusing on listicles. And typically in journalism classes, it's always like hardcore journalism. And that's not where a lot of opportunities are in this moment in culture. And her professor isn't wrong. They were like, print media is dying. It's every day. Yeah. You're finding, maybe not every day, but you're finding a new print, has gone, we're going from print to digital, or like for, Entertainment Weekly, for example, I think that used to come out weekly, and then they cut back to monthly. Now you might get a special edition, but you'll have your digital you'll have your digital cover, which is running on socials. So there's a lot of things that are so, and they even say like, oh, this is like, one of the lines talks about millennials and Gen Z in this book. So that you're already kind of making your audience a little bit smaller in who you're trying to reach. My question to you was going to be, we have all these con circuits, we have all these con experiences, we've also had our professional experiences, and our personal off-con experiences with, working with talent, going to parties with talent, different things. Have you ever been starstruck? And if so, who was the person that you remember, if you care to share? Or if you can say it to me, and then we could just bleep it out and keep everybody guessing, that you've been most starstruck with.
Great question. Okay. I cried meeting the cast of Firefly. This is pre-Joss. This is like pre all of Joss's stuff. This is like early 2010s. Yeah, early 2010s.
So this is in Philly?
Yeah, this is Philly.
Okay.
This is editor Sam and I. This is the con where we met Shatner, Stan Lee. This is that con.
This is before I started conning then.
Yeah,
Okay.
this was before you started conning. This is all the pictures and Sam, and he's in his yellow Game of Thrones t-shirt.
Yes, I know these pictures.
You know these pictures. It's these pictures. And the cast of Firefly, it was my first full cast picture. And Nathan wasn't there. Nathan wasn't there and the doctor wasn't there, but everybody else was there. And it was my first full cast picture. And it was just like, wow. It was this moment of like overwhelming joy and also disbelief. Cause you're like, oh my God, it's like, I know all of you, but like you look different, but like I can still see I can still see you as your character and like you still sound like them. And specifically, they were all very friendly. They're all very nice. Like it was Alan, like, you know, like, this funny picture of him. It was lovely. And they were all so nice and like so pleasant and fun. And that con was before con culture really kind of blew up, I think. So you were able to, because it wasn't packed, you were able to kind of sit on the perimeter of the convention center and you were able to watch talent be walked back and forth from the rooms and from their holding areas. Because in cons like that, a lot of times it's not rooms. It's just like partitions that are put up. Yeah, it's just a lot of draping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're being moved in between these different rooms and we were able to watch that. And it was,
and there was space to sit. Let's not forget, you could find a space to sit in an outlet anywhere.
Yeah. And the outlets. And also because it wasn't so packed and, they were able just to walk or, and just wave and no one was rushing, it wasn't a whole thing and they'd take them to their tables and it was just really nice. So that was my first really shocking kind of overwhelming, con moment. Yeah. Oh, my worst.
Oh, which one? Is it the one that I bought you and they were an asshole to you? Because
no.
I still think about that. I'm like, you motherfucker.
You motherfucker. You.
Motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
Sorry, I listened to Sabrina Carpenter.
No, my worst was Michael Brooker. From
really? Oh, but isn't he
from The Walking
really
Dead? He's gross.
known to be crude.
Yeah. He's really nasty and very handsy and just gross. Just gross. But to counteract that, Norman was perfect.
Even when that person bit him at the con we were at.
Yes, oh my God. Even when that person bit him at the con
we can
we were
say
I
that name because that was
happened.
public. That was public news. That made the news.
That was shocking. I can't believe that happened. Jess, I would also ask the same to you.
I think that the con that I felt most starstruck, I want to say I'll just reference convention purposes, I think. I would have to say when we met Matt Smith in Philly, and it was, I can't remember, I think it was a duo with Karen. It was a Doctor Who photo op. Karen was there, and then there was some sort of tech glitch with the camera where they asked us to stay longer and we were holding our poses. And so his poor back was so sweaty. We were holding our poses. I know, and we're just standing there and we're taking as many, we're just waiting for the tech thing. And they were just trying to make conversation. And I was just stuck frozen. I was Amy, that was the year we went as companions, as you went as Rose and I went as Amy. Amy was my favorite companion and Matt Smith was my doctor. And to be there with him, I remember walking out of the photo op area and I think I was shaking and I was just I met Matt Smith. I held Matt Smith. I was holding him longer than we needed. I couldn't stop. And I'm the people that I've met, the people that I work with. And he was the one that shook me in the convention circuit. You also know the other person that I've that I've shaking, hyperventilating, and now I'm friends with, which is so awkward. And I'm not going to share that here. But he was like the one on the convention circuit that I think like, I fully did not know how to react. And no, he's just and he's just as pleasant. Like, I think we always say, always meet your idols. People say never meet your idols. You'll never hear us at on ACOFAE say never meet your idols, because you can tell with the vibes, or you can tell if they're really like, I feel like, maybe they do fake it, but like you're having good faith amongst your fans to keep bringing, that's your job to bring you your money. And I couldn't have asked for a better experience, even though I wasn't coherent. I think I remember shaking in the after fact more than the actual thing. That's probably the best one.
Nathan Fillion and David Boreanaz were both incredibly sweaty.
Nathan is like, goes through his shirts.
He goes through his shirts. And David Boreanaz had thrown out his back. You remember that? He had thrown out his back. He was like, hunched over. I was like, are you okay? He's like, no, I'll be fine. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I love cons. I feel like they're so exciting. And it's refreshing to see like the con circuit. Like they're really focusing on nostalgia right now. So if there's somebody you've always wanted to meet, do it now. Yeah, do it now. That's not to be a bummer, no bummers. The Charmed cast is out there making the circuit. So, maybe hit that one up. Well, I always wish, like, again, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. I was like, she'll be at the next, and Stan Lee. I was like, they'll be at the next one, because they were
always
like, they
there.
are con circuit royalty. I mean, there was never a doubt. So, but that being said, thanks for joining us this week. Thanks for listening. You can follow us at ACOFAE Podcast on Instagram. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much, and we can't wait to hear from y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.